My name is Eric E. Lacoste Adamson. My mother was in the Lacoste family from France, who emigrated to the United States in the early 1800s when to New Orleans and Louisiana when it was still part of France, and before Napoleon sold it to Mr. Jefferson. My father is Scandinavian, but he's a son of a Kansas farmer, and he decided after World War II, when he got out of the Navy, that he would study at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., where he met my mother, and decided to go into the diplomatic corps. And I didn't find out until I was reading his personal papers, preparing my oral obituary and tribute to him in his church, where he was senior warden of the church at age 85, head of the diplomatic corps for the state of Hawaii, and also head of the retired government workers union. I learned that the reason he went into the diplomatic corps was Carmen Miranda, whom he saw in some National Geographic magazine when he was 15 years old, thought she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever saw, and he had to go overseas to ever find a woman like that. Now, he found my mother in Washington, but at any rate, that's a long story. I'm a graduate of the University of Virginia 2 times, once undergrad and once law school. I was a gymnast in college and was given a scholarship in the 11th grade in high school to go to the University of Illinois, the then national champions in gymnastics. And I went there and I enjoyed it very much, but it was too flat. So I came back to Virginia and finished my education at UVA, where I was captain of the gymnastic team and made the trials for the Olympic team in gymnastics that year. But I grew up in Egypt. I spoke Arabic and French before I spoke English. I then spoke Turkish when we moved to Turkey, to Istanbul. Then we moved to Paris, and each time we'd come back to McLean, Virginia, up near Washington, for a year or 2. And I went to high school in South America, and I'm fluent in Spanish as a result of that. And I just returned from being president's rep to a district conference in Amboise, France, which was very nice, and had to give my speeches in French, which was okay. Somebody said, well, did you prepare them in Google Translate? And I said, no, I just did it off the cuff from the podium and talked about what issues they wanted to talk about, and it worked out very well. The only concern I had was the airplane, that it would make it back, and I learned this morning there was a plane that crashed in Russia this morning on its way back from Dubai. And the only reason I was concerned about that is that my son has been with his sister in Spain, who's flying back on a Russian airline today or tomorrow to Moscow. So luckily that was not his flight, because all passengers were killed in that accident. They don't know what caused it. I have been a member of the Rotary Club of Front Royal since 1974, which is 42 years, and I was president of that club in 1980, and attended the first RILA, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards ceremony at Blacksburg that year, and took my students we selected from the high school. And I have been on that committee for the last 35 years and have attended almost every one. I was ill one year, and then this past year I wasn't able to attend. So 2 of them I haven't been there. But I was district governor in 1994-95, and I enjoyed that very much. A lot of work. Put a lot of miles on my car that year. But it's a great district, and because I've traveled in many other districts around the world, I can compare it very favorably with any other district. And I think I'd also say that one of the things I've learned about traveling around the world and meeting Rotarians is that Rotarians are some of the nicest, most admirable people that you'll ever meet. And it's because of what they have learned and gained from Rotary and what they bring to Rotary. And of course, we read in the governor's session yesterday the four-way test, and I've always thought the four-way test had too many words in it. It's basically 4 different things, and if you put one word for each of those paragraphs, I would say the 4 things that's the object of Rotary is friendship, ethics, service, and peace. And that's what Rotary is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So I was vice president on the board of directors of Rotary International from 2008 until 2010, and I was vice president under John Kenny as president in 2009-10. And so what are the most memorable things? The most memorable things, I called myself the Joe Biden of Rotary, and people got a kick out of that. The job of the vice president is basically to make sure the president doesn't get hurt. That's number one. And of course, the next job is if the president dies, you become president immediately. And John Kenny underwent a bout with Legionnaire's disease in November of his first year as president and lost 22 pounds in 3 days and nearly died. So it really nearly did happen. It's never happened in the history of Rotary. But my memorable moments as governor of the district really was getting to meet and visit the clubs and the people all over this district, and to become friends with many of the club presidents who served under me. And I remembered in our session downstairs this morning, they had at the club of Harrisonburg, Massanutten, and it was a 10-year-old club the year I was governor, and they had a Paul Harris night. They wanted me to come present to the new Paul Harris members. All 27 members of that club became Paul Harris Fellows that night. And I just thought that was incredible. And I said, how did you do this? And they said, oh, well, for the last 10 years, we just bill $25 every quarter on our members' dues chart, and that $100 every year becomes their Paul Harris Fellow money, and after 10 years, we